I literally was thinking the other day, like, oh my gosh, we're halfway through 2025. I literally have no idea what happened or where my brain was. I'm going to say 2025 like 5 million times, but I mean 2026. I don't know why it hasn't registered to me that it's 2026. So that's what I mean. Not 2025, 2026. And I haven't knit anything. What's going on? I haven't knit anything. But I was like, wait, girl, you actually have knit like a kind of like a couple of things. And I've also started a couple of projects. And so I figured, let's go through my little basket, my little bin of 2025. What are we going to call them? We're going to call them finished objects, whips. These are my whips and my finished projects of 2025. I've mentioned a million times, we're going to mention it a million and one times. I am on a journey of intentional making. And so, with being more intentional, I have not casted on as many things as I would have before, just because I want to make things, in colors that I like, in colors that I want to wear. I want to make pieces that I'm excited about and I'm excited to finish. And so, I've just been, like kind of thinking, like, what have I done knit wise, fiber wise in 2025? Because sometimes I'm just like, girl, like you make all these videos about knitting, you always have some needles, you're always working on something, but it's like, what exactly are you working on? And so I thought, you know what, friend, we're gonna go through my little, what are we gonna call this? It's not even really like my whip basket. I do have like some finished projects in here. This is kind of just my, what's the opposite of out of sight, out of mind? Like I'm one of those people, like if I can't see something, it doesn't exist to me. And so I put kind of just, I even see like some yarn in here. I've put everything that I plan to tackle in 2025, everything that I've done in 2025 in this little basket. And so friend, today we're gonna go through my basket of, I don't know, maybe like finished objects, whips, ish, if that makes any sense. I've mentioned this project a million times over. This is my Mew top and I absolutely love it, at least so far. I'm currently using the Lana's light yarn from Berroco. This is sport weight yarn and it took me, goodness, when did I start this knit? I feel like I started this knit like low key when the pattern came out, at least last maybe like November, December. That's when I started this knit, and it's taken me 5 ever to do all of this ribbing in these tiny little needles and this tiny little yarn. But this is what I have so far, and I actually really, really love it. The reason why I have not knit on this project for quite some time at this point, maybe like, friend, we pushing on months at this point, maybe like months that I haven't knit on it, is just because oh my gosh, oh my gosh. First of all, look, literally look, like I'm not even being dramatic about this. Look how tiny this yarn is. These needles I think are like 2 point something, like literally the smallest needles ever. But the thing is, I wanted to try it on first just to make sure, that everything is good. I want to make sure that the ribbing is long enough to my liking before I move on to the top section. But friend, oh my gosh, I think literally like if I'm not mistaken, it's 204 stitches on the needles right now. And this yarn is itty bitty. Like I need to transfer the yarn to a scrap piece and then try it on and then put them back on the needles and then I can continue. And just something about having to transfer 200 plus stitches is killing me. Like I've been dreading that step so bad. In my mind, it literally just makes more sense to abandon it. I feel like I'll definitely be, definitely, girl, you have too much confidence. I really want to be done, like around the time that the weather starts getting colder. So when would that be? October? November-ish. How many months away is that? I feel like I could finish it by then, right? This was my travel project for so long. This was my yarn club project for so long, just because it's very portable. Like I carried it in this little bag and this bag fits in, like the bag that I carry every day. And the ribbing was pretty mindless. It really was just 2 by 2 ribbing. I might have messed up in some spots, but for the most part, I did a pretty decent job and I just love the way that it looks. But once I get over the hurdle of having to like, transfer the stitches and then try it on, we'll be back in business with the Mew top. Also, I saw Una, the designer, had posted that there's going to be, I don't know, is it like a revision? But basically, there are going to be more sizes added to the Mew top. I had mentioned this pattern before in one of my other videos, and I had said how, like it's not size inclusive. I ain't no skinny thing by any means, but it's like, there are people who are bigger than me who would like to knit this top. And it's like, if I could barely fit in the biggest size, like if you were any bigger than me, you didn't stand a chance. But I heard, or not I heard, Una, the designer, had posted that the Mew top is going to be getting, some more sizes added to that. And so I feel like that's really great. And that's something worth mentioning if you're interested in making the Mew top, like I would check that out. I also had seen Or like when I had posted about this new top and I had mentioned it not being size inclusive, somebody had commented, you know, like, oh, like, why don't you just make your own? But basically, you're just making like 2x2 ribbing, and then you increase, I guess, a little bit for the top part and then seam the shoulders. I think if you wanted to freehand something like this, you could do it. It wouldn't be too hard. But if you want specifically the Mew top, there are going to be more sizes added to the pattern. I don't know when. Let me look that up. But this is what we have so far for the Mew top. And I'm actually really excited to finish this. This is probably like my favorite yarn ever that I've bought ever. And I feel like, you know, since the yarn is so beautiful, I like have no choice but to finish. I just have to like mentally get over whatever is stopping me from wanting to take off 204 stitches to try it on. I know that in the end, once I do it, it's going to be so worth it. But just like in my brain, friend, like I'm dreading it so bad. But this is our Mew top. Gorgeous, gorgeous girl. Okay, everything else is in my little basket. I also like to use a wire basket because when it's hanging up on my, what is it, like the shelf, I can see everything that's in the basket at all times. And like I mentioned, if I cannot see it, it does not exist. And so this is kind of just like my everything in 2025 that I'm going to keep in my brain to finish, or maybe like I've finished it and I want to post pictures, you know, like that kind of thing. So literally on the top, my pride and joy are my dice. I actually made these two. When did I make these two? Maybe like at the end of last year. These were my prototypes for this one. I put out the official pattern. Friend, did you see it? If you want to make this dice, I do have a free pattern out. It's just the charts really, and then you seam up all the sides, but I actually really love this. Originally, I had made it because I had made a short film that never saw the light of day, but these were the dice that I had made for the film, and I thought they were so cute. When I posted them, a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, friend, where's the pattern? Where's the pattern? And so I put out a pattern, and these are probably like my favorite things that I've ever made, one of my favorite things that I've ever made ever. What do I use these for? I don't know, friend. They kind of just sit in this little basket. Like they literally just sit on the top, and it's really nice to look at them, I think, from across the room. But I'm trying to figure out like what should I do with them. I had an idea to put maybe like something heavy in it, like not a rock. I don't know, put something heavy in it and then maybe use it as like a paperweight. That was kind of an idea. But even just them sitting at the top of the basket, I feel like they look really cute. Yeah. I love these dice so much. It doesn't take that long to make either. So if you're interested in making some dice, friend, I will link the pattern down below. This was my gift to everyone who watches my videos once I reached 1,000 subscribers. So if you're feeling lucky, knit yourself some dice. These are like, you know, one of my favorite things that I've made ever. I did make them, you know, just in a standard colorway, black and white, and then I did one where it's predominantly black with the white dots. But I do want to make like other different colors. I thought of like maybe like a red or like a burgundy, or even like two shades of brown, like a light brown and a dark brown. But these are my dice. These are my dice. This is probably like one of my favorite things that I've ever made. And I also made a pattern for it. So, you know, this is really special to me. I was gonna say this is really special to me in a special way, but just, I don't know, these dice are really special, and, you know, knit you some for good luck. Okay, next we have in this basket actually this yarn. This isn't a whip or a finished object, but it's in here because I so desperately want to use this yarn. I have this in my stash. I've had it for, you know, like a really long time, and I was going through, you know, all of the yarn that I had, and I do like the color on this, and I don't know, it like kind of has some texture. I don't know if it comes up. This is the Berroco Remix 100% recycled fibers. It's weight 4 yarn. I remember going to the yarn store and like, who even knows why I was there? I hardly ever buy like really fancy yarn in person. I'm definitely like an online yarn shopper, but I do remember so specifically going into the yarn shop, and I have no idea what I was even really looking for, but the worker recommended that I go with this one. I rediscovered this yarn in my stash. I looked it up and I was like, no way, no way. I paid full price for this yarn, and I have no idea what, like I had no project in mind to make it, if that makes sense. Like normally I would never splurge on a yarn if I didn't have a very specific product in mind. I don't know, let me not put this on the worker, you know, like it was 100% on me that I decided to buy this and take it home. But sometimes like that's also why I don't like to go yarn shopping in person. I feel like, I don't know, sometimes I feel like a little bit, what's the word, like pressured into maybe buying something that I wouldn't normally. I don't know, like I don't want to say that I would never have bought this yarn, but genuinely, if I didn't have a very specific project in mind that I had to use this specific yarn, I would have never bought it. I would have never bought it. And the only reason I'm even holding on to it at this point is because, you know, like I spent so much money on it. But since I have it and it's in my stash and I've decided, that I'm going to keep it, I have it in this basket kind of just because I'm trying to figure out, like, what should I make? What should I make? What should I make? I thought about making a poncho. I think that was on my list. Thought about maybe making like a hat and like a matching kind of scarf. I only have 2 skeins of it and it's weight 4 yarn. I don't know, friend. Let me know. Have you ever used this yarn before? I have it in this basket just because, like, I figured when I cast on something new, this will be the yarn that I use, but I'm kind of stumped. Like, I don't know what exactly I should make with this yarn, but this is in our basket. We're going to use it eventually. It is very beautiful yarn. Even if it's not, traditionally my style or something that maybe like 2026 me would buy, I do think it's very beautiful and I keep it in this basket, just so that it doesn't get buried and forgotten again. But low key, I did forget about this yarn until just right now when I'm pulling it out of the basket. I want to say it is so embarrassing how I finished this bag ages ago and like literally the last thing I have to do is seam it up and put the cord through it and I am dragging my feet on it. This is the famous loopy scrunchie bag. I am absolutely obsessed with the colors that I chose. This beige and then like a taupe color and a brown. I don't know if you can see all of the color changes. I don't know like if it comes up on camera, but I absolutely love this bag. I made the strap just a little bit longer so that, once I'm done, I can really scrunch it up. I have already bought the paracord, to thread through the bag. Like literally all I have to do is seam it up and then put the cord through it. And similar to the Mew top, I don't know, there's just something in my brain that's like, let's procrastinate on this for half a year. And I really just need to lock in, get out of my head about it and finish this bag. I think this would be really cute. This is really like, I don't know, one of my favorite things that I've ever made actually. I love the scrunchie bag pattern. This is the second one that I've made. Will I make another scrunchie bag? Probably. Not anytime soon, but this is a pattern that I absolutely adore. The yarn that I'm using, if I'm not mistaken, it is the Cascade Sarasota yarn. I'm pretty sure it's a acrylic and maybe a cotton blend. I really love that yarn specifically for this bag. I'm not traditionally like an acrylic yarn girl, but I think an acrylic and a cotton blend is, pretty good for something that you plan to like carry around, like an accessory, like a bag. Maybe not necessarily for a garment, but for an accessory or a bag. That's like some of my favorite yarn to use. Okay, next in my basket is not knit. It's actually crochet. I haven't worked on this project in a hot minute, friend. I'm actually going to be honest. I have not worked on this project in a hot minute, but this is my giant granny square blanket that I'm making. The idea is just to make, these huge granny squares. How many do I have so far? I think I have 3, but like, look how pretty the yarn color changes. And so I've wanted to crochet a blanket since I started crocheting, since I started, fiber arts. And every time, that I start a blanket or every time that I think about doing a blanket, usually what stops me is having to weave in all of those ends, having to choose like the different colors. And so my idea was, what if I got a variegated yarn and just did some basic granny squares, and kind of let the color change of the variegation like create the pattern, if that makes sense, instead of trying to do like a specific motif, instead of trying to choose specific colors, just letting the color changing yarn, do all of the work. And that way I could just knit a basic granny square. I did try to make, what was it, one time, like one of those 3D rose blankets, granny squares, granny stitch blankets. Friend, first of all, I can't even believe that I was so delusional to tackle a project that ambitious. I think I got through like 10 roses and I was like, absolutely not, absolutely not. Just doing basic granny squares is definitely more my speed. I mean, we're doing basic granny squares and I literally have not touched this project in months at this point. But this yarn is the tea time yarn from Hobie. Friend, don't cancel me. I know we ain't messing with Hobie right now, but I bought this yarn a long time ago and I still think it's kind of cute. So I don't know. This is not a Hobie promotion. Don't oh, oat milk still supports Hobie. Oat milk still supports Hobie. I didn't say none of that. I didn't say any of that. This is just the yarn that I have and the yarn that I'm using, and it just so happens to be Hobie. But I had it for a long time. Okay, now that we've gotten that out of the way, I think this color is absolutely I think this color is absolutely so beautiful. It's like how would I describe this? A brown, tan, gray, black, like really just different shades of neutrals. And now that I'm, holding this up and I'm talking about it, I really want to finish this blanket. Considering the amount of time that normally goes into making like a piece this big, like a crochet blanket, these squares, I feel like don't take that long. Does that make sense? Like, I feel like there are different types of crochet blankets that would take way longer. All I really need to do is just sit down and lock in. And I feel like I could probably finish the entire blanket in like less than a month. But I have 3 squares so far. They're going to be like really big squares. And then that's also the thing. They're really big squares. And so I don't have to, you know, like seam a whole bunch of like little tiny squares together. Honestly, I'm just at the point where I need to lock in. The idea was to make this blanket maybe the size of like a full blanket. Not too big, but I definitely wanted to cover, you know, like my whole body. I plan on using this like as my sit on the couch and stay warm, watch TV blanket. I was looking so hard for these needles the other week and they're literally still here in this project, but I'm calling this the band with balaclava. And if you're unfamiliar and you're new here, last year I did put out a pattern for a bonnet. I called it the bandwidth bonnet. And so this is the bandwidth balaclava. And basically she is the bandwidth bonnet's sister, cooler, hotter, older sister. And my idea behind this was to use the same weight yarn and the same size needles that you use to make the bonnet. And that way, you know, like once you've worked through the bonnet pattern, the balaclava has really similar construction, has really similar techniques. And so my idea was that, you know, like a complete beginner, once they learned how to work through the bonnet, they could do the balaclava. I really love this piece so much. This is like the very first draft ever, like literally the prototype. I haven't worked on this in a little bit, but this is actually going to be my next pattern that's coming out. So YouTube hears it first. This is the next pattern that I'm going to be releasing, the bandwidth balaclava. I'm thinking maybe sometime this fall, around the same time that I released the bonnet last year. But my favorite feature on here is the rolled, is it called rolled? Like the rolled hem. I learned this technique recently and like literally fell in love. And so the balaclava is going to be, you know, the rolled hem on the bottom, and then the front, what do we call this? The ribbing in the front is also going to be a rolled hem. And then you're going to put, you know, like some type of cord through it. And then on the bottom, can you see my holes? I don't know if you can see it, but at the very bottom, like right here, that's where you'll pull like a drawstring. Is it called a drawstring? I love, 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 love this piece. This is the prototype. This is the first draft. This is the first version. When I officially enter pattern writing mode, I will sit down, you know, and make more versions and fix all of the kinks. But for now, this is what I have, you know, the prototype in my basket. And I absolutely I love these colors too. I've never made anything with like this orange and this beige stripe pattern-ish color, but I really love it. I really love it. So friend, stay tuned. This will be my next pattern releasing sometime in the fall. It will be a free pattern similar to the bonnet. It will be a free pattern. It uses worsted weight yarn and it uses 6mm needles. So if you've made the bandwidth bonnet pattern, you have all of the materials that you need to make this bonnet. You have all of the skills that you need to make this bonnet. This is just like, you know, a little fancier version, I think, of the bandwidth bonnet. More than anything, I wanted to kind of give the bonnet like a follow-up, if that makes any sense. I like the idea of, you know, being able to work through the bonnet pattern as a complete beginner and then taking the skills that you learned through that bonnet and applied it to this super cool balaclava. Also, when I was looking for a balaclava with a drawstring, like with the drawstring mechanism, I don't really know what I'm saying, but I was looking for a bonnet, not a bonnet. I was looking for a balaclava pattern, you know, that had a little drawstring element in the front, and I found a few, but they were all paid patterns and none of them used worsted weight yarn or 6mm needles. And I was like, you know what if I made my own pattern? And so that's really kind of my idea behind this one. I'm really excited to actually start working on this a little bit more and eventually release the pattern. Yeah. No funny business, no theatrics. This is actually, I think, like my favorite thing that I've ever knit ever. This is my weekend tote. The pattern was a free pattern by Pearl Soho. First of all, this color that I chose is absolutely gorgeous. I'm using, goodness, what yarn am I using? I'm using the Cascade Nifty cotton yarn. This is like kind of my outdoor adventure-ish bag, if that makes sense. So like when I go to the pool, when I go roller skating, this is the bag that I bring with me. Not only is the color absolutely gorgeous and beautiful, and this is like a huge bag that fits so much, but I hand lined the inside using a recycled flannel fabric, and how lucky was I to find the most perfect lining fabric in the whole entire world. Someone asked me like, fairly recently when I mentioned, lining my bags. They were like, do you use the sewing machine or do you hand stitch it? And I was like, friend, the sewing machine. The sewing machine is crazy. I am terrified of my knits going anywhere near the sewing machine. Sewing in the lining of this bag, I mean, it didn't take too long, I guess, like it wasn't impossible. It definitely would have gone by so much faster had I used the sewing machine, but I don't know. I feel like hand stitching it, I can get it like really precise. Maybe if I was a more advanced sewer, I'd feel differently about it, but something about just hand stitching the bag, I feel like it makes it look nicer. It makes it look cleaner. And then also, I don't know. I don't know. I'm like literally terrified of my knits going anywhere near the sewing machine. So yes, I did hand stitch it and I love this fabric so much. I love this bag so much. I actually want to make another version of this bag. I was thinking kind of like either an olive color or a beige color. I think I'm leaning a little bit more towards olive just because I do get a lot of wear out of this bag. And I feel like if it was like beige or cream or tan, it would start looking, like, what's the word? Beat up. It would start looking more used faster. And so maybe like an olive. That's the color that's been on my mind. I think a teal also would be a really pretty color for a bag. The only thing is that I don't wear anything teal. I actually hardly ever wear blue. And so I feel like between teal and olive, olive would be, a more realistic color to choose. This is the Weekend Tote by Pearl Soho. And honestly, the fact that it is a free pattern to me was just like the icing on the cake. Like, it's one thing to find a free pattern. I love me a good free pattern, but a free pattern that's like really good or a free pattern that ends up being, like one of your most favorite things you've ever made ever. Ugh, chef's kiss. But this is my Weekend Toe and we love her. We love her so much. Of course, we have here our basic open knit. This is my favorite pattern of all time ever in the whole entire world. I think this is the only knitting pattern that I have worked through more than 3 times. Literally every single year since I've started knitting, I make some variation of the basic open knit. This was actually the pattern that like encouraged me to actually learn how to knit. I remember, goodness, what year did this pattern come out? Maybe 2023. It was super popular on knit Instagram and everybody was posting their basic open knit by Carly, basic open knit. This is such a cute and simple like basic pull over knit and I could imagine, knitting it in so many different colors and still loving it. And so I decided to really, lock in and be serious and learn how to knit just because I wanted to make this pattern so bad. And all of these years later, this is still my favorite pattern, like literally ever. I love this pattern so much. This yarn that I used, this is the Lion brand 24/7 cotton yarn. I think the shade name is Ecru. I modified the sleeves just to make them skinnier on the arm. Like the original pattern, I felt like they were a little bit too loose, a little bit too baggy, but I don't know. This is the last basic open knit that I made. Am I going to make more basic open knits? Of course. Of course. Thinking like what other colors I can make it in. I don't know. I don't know. I did want to make a black one. Like I have this white one. I did want to make a black one, but I would wear the black one very often, and that is why I would make it. But something about just knitting with black yarn, I'm just like, ugh, that's kind of boring. That's kind of boring. And you already know, my attention span is like, I love to abandon a whip once, I kind of get bored of it. And so I was scared to start making a black version of this just because, it's like, if I started, I want to finish it. And like, if I do something in like such a basic color, I don't know if I'm going to have the motivation to finish it, especially once we start getting down to the sleeves. Friend, you know how much I do not like knitting sleeves, but this is my basic open knit and I actually love this. It's getting warmer, so we're definitely going to start seeing more of her. Okay, last project of 2025. I had to include it in this video. It would not be a 2025 video without my loopy stripe cardigan. I have started to document, me making this cardigan. This is where we're at so far. I haven't touched it since the last time we updated it, but I will be back to it, I'm thinking next week. So this is what I have so far. The colors are absolutely dreamy. I've never knit with anything using these color schemes. The pattern is specifically written to use scrap yarn. And so these are all, colors that have been in my stash that I couldn't figure out what to do with them. And so they had, just been in there chilling, waiting for me to figure out what to do. And once I put them together to make the loopy stripe cardigan, I absolutely fell in love with this color scheme. I think it's actually kind of funny how individually I was not feeling any of these colors. Like, this was from back in my day when I used to just buy yarn because I thought the colors were kind of pretty and I didn't really have a specific project in mind. I didn't take into account the colors that I naturally gravitate towards. I was just like, oh, here's a pretty purple. Like, let me buy it. And so, over time, I had all of these balls of yarn just sitting in my stash. And I was just like, what should I do with it? What should I do with it? I don't even like these colors. And then I put them all together in the striped cardigan. And I'm in love. And I think it is so beautiful. So this is our probably the biggest project of 2025. 100% mark my word, friend. Like, I know I am a whip abandoner, a project abandoner. I love to frog everything. I love to jump ship when the going gets too tough. But mark my word, 100% we will finish this cardigan this year. Absolutely, we have to. Like, oh, I will never get over this color scheme. Like, I literally will never get over this color scheme. I feel like this is definitely kind of the outlier. Is that the word to use? Like, I feel like all of the other projects I showed kind of follow like a similar color palette, color scheme, and this is, a little bit different than what I would traditionally knit, but it's coming along so beautifully. I don't mind too much. I think on this one, I don't know, the arms are starting to feel a little bit too wide. I'm going to start being a little bit more careful just because I'm really loving where it is so far, and I don't want to get to a point where I'm just like, okay, I kind of messed up. Do I need to frog? And so I'm already noticing that the armholes are a little bit too wide. I'm going to have to correct that. Also, in the original pattern, friend, tell me if you've ever made it. In the original pattern, it has like the cinched waist. I feel like that's kind of, what am I trying to say? Like the star of the show. That's like the feature of the cardigan I think that grabs the most attention is the cinched waist. But low key, I feel like making the cinched waist like makes the cardigan a couple sizes smaller than you were expecting it to be, especially if you size down on the needles like how the pattern suggests that you do. And so I don't know, like I've seen other versions where people completely omit the cinched waist and they just do, stocking it all the way down, no decreases. And I'm kind of thinking that that might be what I do. I'm over here like, oh, these are all the projects that I have, completely forgetting about literally what I'm knitting right now, like my current whip right now. This pretty blue is the, what is it? It's the Michaels Silky and Soft yarn, and I'm making the halter top pattern by Made by Raj. I've been working on this project, little by little every day, little by little every day. This is like my lunch break project, and this is how much I have done, and I'm actually really excited for this. This is the project that I'm going to be finishing next. I absolutely adore this yarn, and it's summer. I need another knit for my summer wardrobe, but after I'm done with this halter top, I don't know which project I'm going to return to. The loopy stripe cardigan is kind of like my ongoing project, so I'm going to just be returning to that throughout the year, but something that's not that, maybe we'll start writing the balaclava pattern. But this is currently what is on my needles, like literally as of right now. I've been knitting this, just a little bit every single day. Intentional knitting, I will say, is not for the weak, especially if you're somebody like me who loves to kind of like chase the novelty, chase the high of a new cast on in a new project. I feel like traditionally in the past, this is kind of the point where, I have all of these whips, I have these ideas, I would just completely abandon and jump ship and then start something new. But I want to make things, that are a little bit more meaningful, things that I'm going to wear. I kind of mentioned the last time how I was feeling, just like a little bit down seeing, the things that everyone else has been knitting this year and how I feel behind because, when you see somebody post that they've made 3, 4, 5 sweaters and it's only June and I've made a quarter of one sweater and abandoned like 5 other projects, I was starting to feel, like kind of, maybe like for lack of a better word, like down about it. I was kind of like, dang girl, come on, let's lock in for like let's start actually knitting. Come on. Come on. But I think there's kind of a beauty in taking it just a little bit slow. And now that I'm looking, at all of my 2026 knits, I feel really happy at what I see. It's more than I actually thought it was going to be. I keep saying, oh, like I haven't made anything, but I've done a little something. So I'm actually not too mad at it. This was really fun to share. Friend, tell me which one of my finished projects or which one of my whips were your favorite. Is there anything here that you want to make yourself? I think that's all we have for today, friend. Thank you so much for spending time with me, and I will see you next Sunday. Bye.